The sound of hushed voices drifted through my hospital room door, carrying fragments of a conversation that would forever change my life. She'll never work again. The inheritance. Such a burden. The words sliced through my morphine-induced haze like shards of glass, each one cutting deeper than the last. My name is Madison, and 3 days ago I was rushing to close a major business deal when a drunk driver ran a red light. Now I'm trapped in a hospital bed, my legs useless beneath crisp white sheets, listening to my family discuss my future as if I were already dead. Mom, we need to be practical about this. My sister Kaya's voice carried through the gap under the door. The medical bills alone will eat through her savings. Someone needs to take control of her assets before... Before what? My brother Mateo's voice cut in. Before she wastes it all on experimental treatments? I agree. She needs someone to manage things while she... recovers. The way he said recovers made my stomach turn. Just last week, we'd all been celebrating my promotion at Sunday dinner. Kaya had hugged me, telling me how proud she was. Mateo had joked about borrowing money from his rich big sister. Now here they were, circling like vultures. "Keep your voices down," my mother Cameron hissed. "She might hear you." "She's heavily medicated," my father Xander replied. "Besides, we need to be realistic. The doctor said she might never walk again. Someone needs to step up and handle things." I pressed my call button, unable to bear another second. The voices scattered like cockroaches in light. When they entered my room moments later, their faces wore masks of sympathy so convincing I almost doubted what I'd heard. "Sweetheart, how are you feeling?" Mom rushed to my bedside, smoothing my hair back with practiced tenderness. "Thirsty," I managed, my throat raw from the breathing tube they'd removed yesterday. "Here, let me help you." Kaya stepped forward, holding a water cup with a straw. Her designer watch caught the fluorescent light, the same model I'd been planning to buy with my next bonus. "The doctor says you're doing really well," Mateo added from the foot of my bed, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. "Though it might be a while before you can go back to work." I took a long sip of water, using it to wash down the bile rising in my throat. "How long?" They exchanged glances, the kind of looks I'd seen them share across the dinner table when they were hiding something. "Let's not worry about that now," Dad said, patting my hand. "You focus on getting better. We'll handle everything else." A nurse entered, breaking the tension. "Time for your pain medication, Ms. Gomez." "Actually," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was, "I'd like to speak with my doctor first, about my prognosis." "Madison, you need to rest," Mom protested, but I could see the panic flickering behind her eyes. "I need to know," I insisted. "It's my life, isn't it?" The silence that followed was deafening. My family shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet my gaze. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. "Of course it is, sweetheart. We just want what's best for you." "What's best for me?" I repeated slowly. "Or what's best for you?" The morphine was wearing off, and with it, the comfortable fog that had kept reality at bay. I could feel everything now, the pain in my legs, the betrayal in my heart, and something else, something hot and fierce growing in my chest. "I'd like to rest now," I announced, closing my eyes. "Alone, please." They filed out, their footsteps fading down the hallway. When I opened my eyes again, I was alone with the steady beep of monitors and the weight of understanding crushing my chest. My family, the people I'd trusted most in the world, saw me as nothing more than a burden, an obstacle between them and my money. The tears came then, hot and silent, rolling down my cheeks. But beneath the grief, something else was taking root, determination. They thought I was finished, that I'd roll over and let them take control of my life. They had no idea what I was capable of. Through my window, I could see the city skyline, the same view I'd admired from my office just days ago. Somewhere out there, my life was waiting for me. And I was going to take it back, one painful step at a time. I might be down, but I wasn't out. Not by a long shot. And if my family wanted a fight, they were about to get one they'd never forget. "Push harder," Selah commanded, her hands firmly supporting my back as I struggled with the resistance band. "Your muscles remember. They just need to be reminded." 2 weeks had passed since I'd overheard my family's conversation, and I'd met my new physical therapist, Selah, 3 days ago. Unlike the rotating staff of hospital therapists, she didn't treat me like I was made of glass. "I can't," I gasped, arms trembling. "Can't?" Selah's eyebrows shot up. Or won't, because the Madison I've been reading about in your medical chart was running marathons 6 months ago. That was before you decided to let your family win? I dropped the band, staring at her. What? Oh, please. Selah pulled up a chair, fixing me with an intense gaze. I've been doing this job for 10 years. I can spot family drama from a mile away. The way they hover during sessions, how they keep trying to reschedule your appointments, the whispered conversations in the hallway. My throat tightened. They think I'm helpless. Are you? The question hung in the air between us. Through the therapy room window, I could see my mother pacing in the hallway, phone pressed to her ear. No, I said finally, picking up the resistance band again. I'm not. Good. Selah smiled, but it wasn't the patronizing smile I'd grown used to. Because I've got a proposition for you. She pulled out her tablet, showing me a video of a woman around my age, standing from a wheelchair and taking hesitant steps. This was one of my patients. Similar injury to yours. Everyone said she'd never walk again. Selah paused the video. She ran a 5K last month. My heart hammered against my ribs. How long? 11 months of hell. Selah's voice was matter of fact. Every day pushing until you want to scream. No guarantees. But if you're willing to try... Madison? My mother's voice interrupted from the doorway. Honey, maybe that's enough for today. You look tired. Before I could respond, Selah stood up. Actually, Cameron, we're just getting started. Madison's showing great progress. But the doctor said she needs intensive therapy. Selah cut in smoothly, which is exactly what we're doing. Mom's face tightened. I just don't want her pushing too hard. Mom, I said, surprising myself with my firm tone, I need to do this, please. She hesitated, then nodded stiffly. I'll be right outside if you need me. As soon as she left, Selah turned back to me. So, what's it going to be? Want to prove them wrong? Yes. The word came out like a prayer. But I don't want them to know. Not yet. Your progress will be hard to hide. Not if they're not looking for it. I thought about how they'd already written me off. They see what they want to see. Selah nodded slowly. All right then. Let's make a deal. Give me 1 year. Follow my program exactly. No complaints, no excuses. And if I do, then next year you'll walk into whatever fancy family meeting they're planning and show them exactly who they're dealing with. The image hit me like a bolt of lightning. Me, standing on my own 2 feet, watching their shocked faces. The thought sent energy surging through my tired muscles. When do we start? We already have. Selah handed me the resistance band again. 20 more reps. And Madison? This stays between us. That evening, as I lay in my hospital bed, my brother Mateo stopped by. He was carrying a stack of papers. Hey, sis, he said, trying to sound casual. How are you feeling? Like I just had the hardest workout of my life. He laughed nervously. Listen, I brought some documents the lawyer drew up. Just some basic stuff to help us handle your affairs while you focus on recovery. I looked at the papers, thinking about Selah's words. They see what they want to see. Can you leave them here? I kept my voice weak, defeated. I'm pretty tired. Sure. He placed them on my bedside table. No rush. We just want to help. After he left, I picked up my phone and texted my old friend Brian, who happened to be a lawyer himself. Need your help. Can you come by tomorrow? Don't tell my family. His response was immediate. On my way first thing. What's going on? I smiled, thinking of Selah's patient in the video. Planning a comeback. For the first time since the accident, I fell asleep with purpose burning in my chest. Let them think I was broken. Let them scheme and plan. In 1 year, they'd learn what I was made of, and I would make damn sure they never forgot it. They want to do what? Brian's voice rose as he reviewed the documents Mateo had left. Shh. I glanced nervously at my hospital room door. Keep your voice down. Sorry, he whispered, leaning closer. But Madison, these papers, they're basically trying to take control of everything. Your condo, your investments, your trust fund. I wheeled my chair closer to the window, watching rain streak down the glass. I know. They think I'm too broken to manage my own affairs. This is insane. Brian shuffled through the papers. Have they even talked to you about any of this? They don't talk to me anymore. They talk about me, around me, over me, like I'm not even here. A knock at the door made us both jump. Kaya walked in, her designer heels clicking against the linoleum. "Oh," she said, spotting Brian. "I didn't know you had company." "Brian's an old friend," I said carefully. "Just catching up." Kaya's smile didn't reach her eyes. "That's nice. But Madison, you really should be resting. The doctor said stress isn't good for your recovery." "Actually," Brian stood up, straightening his tie. "We were just discussing some legal matters." "Legal matters?" Kaya's voice sharpened. "What kind of legal matters?" "Just reviewing some documents," I said quietly, playing the role they expected. "It's a lot to take in." "Oh, sweetie." Kaya's tone turned patronizing. "You don't need to worry about any of that. We're handling everything." "That's what I'm afraid of," I muttered. "What was that?" "Nothing. I'm tired." After they left, I wheeled myself to physical therapy, where Selah was waiting. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "Spill it," she commanded, helping me onto the exercise mat. "They're trying to take control of everything." I grunted as she helped me stretch. My sister just showed up, acting like I'm some helpless child. "Let them think that," Scylla said, pushing my leg back further. "While they're busy underestimating you, we'll be busy proving them wrong. Show me those leg lifts we practiced." Later that afternoon, I positioned my wheelchair near the family consultation room just around the corner. My parents had called a meeting with my doctors, and I'd become an expert at eavesdropping. "Long-term care facility?" My mother's voice drifted out. "But she's so young." "It's a specialized center," a male voice responded. "They have excellent rehabilitation programs." "And the cost?" my father asked. "Your insurance will cover most of it, given Madison's condition." I didn't hear the rest. My hands gripped my wheelchair arms so tight my knuckles turned white. A long-term care facility. They were trying to ship me off, out of sight, out of mind. "Hey," a soft voice said behind me. I turned to find Brian holding 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this." "They want to put me in a home," I whispered. Brian's face hardened. "Not if I have anything to say about it. I've been making some calls. You remember my friend at the DA's office?" I nodded. "She's looking into some things. The timing of these documents, the pressure they're putting on you. It's not looking good for them." "I don't want to destroy my family, Brian." "They're trying to destroy you first." The consultation room door opened, and I quickly wheeled around the corner, Brian following. We watched as my family filed out, their faces serious. "Did you hear that?" Mateo was saying. "The doctor thinks she'll need care for years, maybe permanently." "We can't afford that," Kaya replied. "Not without accessing her accounts." "She'll sign the papers," my father said confidently. "She knows we only want what's best for her." They walked past without seeing me, their words hanging in the air like poison. Brian squeezed my shoulder. "Ready to fight back?" I thought about Selah's patient in the video, about the small victories I'd already achieved in therapy, about the way my family had changed from loving supporters to calculating vultures overnight. "Yes," I said, my voice stronger than I'd expected. "But we do this smart. Let them think they're winning." "While you get stronger," Brian nodded. "Exactly." I pulled out my phone and pulled up my calendar. "I have therapy with Selah every morning at 9. Can you come by afterward tomorrow? We need to make a plan." "I'll be here." He paused. "Madison, you're the strongest person I know. Don't let them make you forget that." As I watched him leave, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Let them scheme. Let them underestimate me. Every dismissive look, every patronizing comment, every secret meeting. It was all fuel for the fire burning inside me. They thought they were writing the end of my story. They had no idea it was just the beginning. "Come on, Madison, just one more," Selah urged, supporting my weight as I gripped the parallel bars. Sweat dripped down my face, my arms trembling with effort. 3 months had passed since I'd started my secret campaign. Every morning, while my family thought I was receiving basic therapy, Selah pushed me to my limits. "I can't," I gasped, my legs shaking. "You said that yesterday and the day before, yet here you are, standing. The words still felt foreign. My family didn't know I could do this now, didn't know I could bear my own weight for short periods. They were too busy fighting over my assets to notice my progress. There, Selah exclaimed as I completed the step. That's 30 seconds longer than last week. The door burst open, making me collapse into my wheelchair. Kaya stormed in, her face flushed. Madison, did you tell Mateo he couldn't access your investment account? Selah stepped between us. We're in the middle of a session. This is family business, Kaya snapped. This is medical rehabilitation, Selah countered, and you're interrupting it. I wiped my face with a towel, hiding my smile. What's wrong, Kaya? Mateo tried to withdraw funds for your care, but the bank blocked him. Did you say something to them? I haven't spoken to anyone at the bank. Technically true. Brian had handled that. Well, someone did. Kaya's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her phone. Dad's furious. We're trying to help you, and you're making it difficult. I'm sorry it's such a burden, I said quietly, playing my role. Maybe you should just let me handle my own finances. Handle your own? Kaya laughed sharply. Madison, you can barely take care of yourself. How are you going to manage your money? Ms. Kaya, Selah's voice cut through the tension. I need to ask you to leave. Your sister's blood pressure is rising, and that could impact her recovery. After Kaya left, Selah helped me onto the exercise mat. Your sister's a piece of work. You should see her at Christmas, I muttered, then froze as a new voice spoke from the doorway. Mind if I join? Brian stood there, holding a laptop. Perfect timing, I said. What did you find out? He sat down, opening his computer. Your brother tried to withdraw $50,000 this morning. When the bank blocked it, he threw a fit, claiming he had power of attorney. Which he doesn't, Selah added, helping me stretch. Exactly. But here's the interesting part. Brian turned the screen toward me. I did some digging. Your sister's business is failing. She's been taking out loans left and right. And your brother? He's got gambling debts. Big ones. My stomach churned. So this isn't just about my medical care. They're desperate, Brian confirmed. But they made a mistake. The bank recorded Mateo's attempt to access your accounts. We can use that. Use it how? To prove they're acting in their own interests, not yours. But he hesitated. We need more evidence. Selah, who had been quietly working on my legs, spoke up. Show them. I nodded, and Selah helped me to the parallel bars. Brian's eyes widened as I gripped them and slowly pulled myself up. Madison, you're standing. She's doing more than standing, Selah said proudly. Show him the steps. Gritting my teeth, I took 3 shaky steps forward. Pain shot through my legs, but I kept going. When I finished, Brian was staring at me in amazement. How long have you been able to do this? 2 weeks, I panted, lowering myself back into the chair. But no one knows except you two. And that's how it needs to stay, Selah insisted. She's making incredible progress. But if her family finds out too soon, they'll try to stop it, Brian finished, like they're trying to stop everything else. A commotion in the hallway caught our attention. Through the window, we could see my parents arguing with Mateo. You shouldn't have tried to access the account, my father was saying. Now the bank's asking questions. We need that money, Mateo shot back. The care facility wants a deposit next week. Lower your voices, my mother hissed. Someone will hear. I watched them. These people who shared my blood but had somehow become strangers. Brian placed a hand on my shoulder. Ready to show them what you can do? Not yet, I said, thinking of Selah's words from months ago. 1 year. But soon. Very soon. As my family's argument faded down the hallway, I turned back to the parallel bars. Selah, I want to try again. She smiled, understanding in her eyes. That's my girl. Channel that anger into strength. And I did, one painful step at a time, while my family plotted their next move, completely unaware that their perfect plan was about to backfire spectacularly. Happy birthday, Dad, I said, wheeling myself into the restaurant where my family had gathered. 6 months had passed since the accident, and this was the first family event I couldn't avoid. Madison, my mother rushed forward, all performative concern. We didn't think you'd make it. The stairs. Brian helped me, I said, nodding toward my friend who stood quietly behind my chair. I caught Kaya's eye roll at his presence. Well, isn't this lovely? My father's smile was strained. The whole family together again. The waiter led us to a private room where Brian smoothly helped me transfer from my wheelchair to a regular chair, much to my family's visible discomfort. They weren't used to seeing me manage such transitions. So, Mateo cleared his throat. How's therapy going? Fine. I took a sip of water. Salah says I'm making progress. That therapist? My mother sighed. Don't you think she pushes you too hard? Before I could respond, Kaya jumped in. Speaking of pushing too hard, we need to discuss the care facility, Madison. They can't hold your spot forever. I'm not going to a facility, I said quietly. Don't be difficult, my father said, cutting into his steak. We found an excellent place, very exclusive. And expensive, I added. Is that why Mateo tried to access my account? The clatter of silverware stopping was almost comical. My brother's face went pale. That was a misunderstanding, my mother said quickly. We only want what's best for you. Like trying to seize control of my assets? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Or discussing my inheritance while I was still in intensive care. You heard that? Kaya's voice was sharp. I hear a lot of things. I met her gaze steadily. Like your conversation last week about liquidating my investment portfolio. My father set down his fork. Now listen here. No, you listen. Brian's voice cut through the tension. As Madison's legal representative, I should inform you that any attempts to access her accounts without authorization could result in criminal charges. Legal representative? My mother's voice rose. Since when? Since I hired him, I said. It's my right. You're not in any condition to make these decisions, Mateo exploded. Look at you. You can barely. Barely what? I challenged. Feed myself, dress myself, manage my own affairs. I'm disabled, not incompetent. A waiter appeared with more wine, forcing a momentary pause in the confrontation. My father waved him away impatiently. Madison, he said, his voice dangerously low, we are trying to protect you. Your condition is improving, I interrupted. But you wouldn't know that, would you? When was the last time any of you actually asked me how I was doing? Really asked? Silence fell over the table. Brian squeezed my hand under the tablecloth, offering silent support. I found the paperwork, I continued, the ones you were going to have me sign next week, giving you complete control over everything I own. How did you? Kaya started. You left them in my hospital room. Did you think I wouldn't read them? Or did you think I couldn't understand them? This is ridiculous. My father stood up. You're clearly not thinking clearly. We'll discuss this when you're more reasonable. Sit down, I said, my voice steady. I'm not finished. To my surprise, he sat. I know about the gambling debts, Mateo. And Kaya, I know your business is failing. Did you think I wouldn't find out why you're really so interested in my money? Their shocked faces told me everything. My mother reached for her wine glass with trembling hands. You don't understand, she whispered. We're family. We take care of each other. Family? I laughed bitterly. Family doesn't plot behind each other's backs. Family doesn't try to steal from each other. Family doesn't... Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my leg, the kind Selah had warned me about. I shifted slightly, using the techniques she'd taught me, and felt Brian tense beside me, ready to help if needed. This dinner is over, I announced, pushing back from the table. Happy birthday, Dad. Don't bother sending the facility any more deposits. I won't be going. As Brian helped me back into my wheelchair, I heard my father mutter, She can't even stand up. How does she expect to take care of herself? I smiled to myself, thinking of that morning's therapy session where I'd walked 10 steps unassisted. They had no idea what I was capable of. But they would. Soon. Outside the restaurant, Brian looked at me worriedly. You okay? Better than okay, I said, watching my family through the window, their heated discussion already in full swing. They think they've got me figured out. They think they know all my cards. But they don't? Not even close. I pulled out my phone to text Salah. Time to accelerate the plan. 8 months post-accident, Salah announced, recording my progress in her tablet. Show me what you've got. I gripped the parallel bars and pulled myself up. The movement was smoother now, more confident. My legs still trembled, but they held my weight. Ready? She asked. I nodded, releasing the bars. 10 seconds passed. 20. 30. That's a new record, Selah grinned. Now walk to me. Step by step, I made my way across the room. No bars, no support, just my own 2 legs and months of brutal determination. Your family still has no idea, she asked as I reached her. They're too busy fighting over my money to notice. I lowered myself into a chair, catching my breath. Did you see the email they sent yesterday? About the family meeting next week? They're calling it an intervention. Can you believe that? The door opened, and Brian hurried in, clutching a manila envelope. You're not going to believe what I found. More dirt on my loving family? He spread several documents on the table. Your father's company is tanking. He's been hiding it from everyone, but they're on the verge of bankruptcy. That explains the desperate grab for my trust fund, I said, studying the papers. There's more. Brian pulled out his phone. Remember that care facility they were so insistent about? I did some digging. Guess who's on the board of directors? No way. Your father's golf buddy, the same one who's been helping him hide his company's financial troubles. Selah whistled low. So they were going to use your money to save your dad's company? Through a series of complicated transfers through the care facility, yes. Brian sat down. It's all here. Bank statements, emails, everything. Perfect timing, I said. Their little intervention is scheduled for next Thursday. They're probably planning to force me to sign something. They can try, Brian smirked, but I've got a surprise of my own. Remember my friend at the DA's office? Before he could continue, the door burst open again. Kaya stood there, her face white with shock. I knew it, she exclaimed, staring at me sitting in the regular chair instead of my wheelchair. You've been lying to us. Kaya, I started, all this time, while we've been worried sick, planning for your care. She pulled out her phone. Wait until Mom and Dad see this? Wait, I called, but she was already gone. Well, Selah said after a moment, that changes things. No, I replied, my mind racing. This is perfect. Brian, move the intervention up. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, are you sure? They want to play hardball? Let's play. I turned to Selah. Can you come? She nodded. Wouldn't miss it. My phone started buzzing with messages from my family. I ignored them all except one from my mother. Family meeting. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., your father's office. No excuses. I typed back a single word. Okay. That evening, Brian helped me gather everything we needed. Bank statements, legal documents, recordings of conversations, and one final piece of evidence that would change everything. Are you ready for this? He asked as we finished. I've been ready since the day I heard them plotting in my hospital room. The next morning, Selah put me through a gentle workout. Save your strength, she advised. You'll need it. At 1:55 p.m., I wheeled into my father's office building. My family was already there, along with their lawyer. Their faces were a mix of anger and betrayal. Before you start, I said, wheeling to the head of the conference table, I have something to show you. We've seen enough, my father snapped. You've been deceiving us, making us worry. No, I cut him off. You've been deceiving everyone. I nodded to Brian, who started distributing folders. Take a look. Every attempt to access my accounts, every secret meeting about the care facility, every plan to use my money to save your failing company. The color drained from my father's face as he opened the folder. Kaya and Mateo exchanged panicked looks. You don't understand, my mother began. I understand perfectly. I pushed back my chair and slowly, deliberately stood up. Gasps filled the room. I understand that the moment I became inconvenient, I became nothing more than a path to my money. Madison, Mateo pleaded, we were trying to help. Help yourselves, I corrected. But here's what's going to happen now. I actually walked, to the window, enjoying their shocked expressions. Tomorrow, the DA's office will receive copies of everything in those folders. Unless what? My father demanded. I turned back to face them, standing tall despite the trembling in my legs. Unless you're ready to hear my terms. The silence in the room was deafening. Through the glass walls, I could see office workers trying not to stare at the drama unfolding in the conference room. My family had no idea that this was just the beginning of what I had planned for them. Terms? My father's voice cracked. You're blackmailing your own family? Interesting choice of words, I said, steadying myself against the conference table. Considering you were planning to institutionalize me and steal my money. That's not what Kaya began. Show them. I nodded to Brian, who clicked a button on his laptop. My father's voice filled the room. Once she's in the facility, we'll have complete control. The The trust fund should cover both her care and the company's debt. My mother's face crumpled as the recording continued, revealing their entire scheme. When it finished, the silence was devastating. "Where did you get that?" Matteo demanded. "Your last family meeting about my care wasn't as private as you thought." I took another step forward. "Did you really think I was too helpless to fight back?" "Madison?" My father stood up, his authority crumbling. "Let's be reasonable." "Reasonable?" I laughed. "Like when you discussed my inheritance while I was still in intensive care? Or when you tried to force me into a care facility that's conveniently connected to your failing business?" "We were desperate," Kaya burst out. "Dad's company was going under. My business was failing. So you decided to sacrifice me?" The words hung in the air like poison. Selah moved closer, ready to support me if my legs gave out, but I waved her off. This moment was mine. "Here are my terms," I continued. "First, you'll all resign from any positions related to my care or finances. Immediately." "You can't," my father started. "I can and I will." I pulled out a document Brian had prepared. "Second, you'll sign this statement admitting to your attempted fraud. It stays with my lawyer unless you try something like this again." My mother began to cry softly. Matteo wouldn't meet my eyes. "Finally," I said, "you're going to listen to what I have to say, all of you." I moved to the head of the table where my father usually sat. My legs were screaming, but I refused to show weakness. "I trusted you, all of you. When that drunk driver hit my car, I thought I'd lost everything. But I was wrong. I didn't lose everything that day. I lost it the moment you decided I was worth more to you broken than whole." "That's not fair," Kaya protested weakly. "Fair." I slammed my hand on the table. "Was it fair to plot behind my back? To treat me like I was already dead? To try to steal everything I've worked for?" "We're your family," my mother whispered. "No." I shook my head. "Family doesn't do this. Family supports each other. Family believes in each other. While you were planning to ship me off, Selah was helping me stand again. While you were trying to access my accounts, Brian was protecting my rights. They became my family." My father's face had aged years in minutes. "What do you want from us?" "I want you to know what you almost destroyed." I straightened up, ignoring the pain. "I'm starting a foundation. For people like me, people who need support, not betrayal, people who deserve a chance to fight back." "With your money," Matteo said bitterly. "My money, my choice." I pushed the statement toward them. "Sign it." One by one, they did. My mother's hand shook so badly she could barely write her name. "Madison," my father said as he signed last, "I know we can't fix this, but you're right, you can't fix this." I took the signed document from him. "But maybe you can learn from it. The foundation's first fundraiser is next month. You're all invited, as guests, not family." "And if we refuse to come?" Kaya asked. "Then don't. But remember, everything I have on your schemes goes public if you ever try to interfere with my life again." I nodded to Brian and Selah, and we moved toward the door. My legs were about to give out, but I'd made it. I'd stood my ground, literally and figuratively. "One more thing," I said, turning back. "That drunk driver, he took my ability to walk for a while. But you took something far more precious. Remember that." Outside the office, my legs finally buckled. Selah caught me, helping me back into my wheelchair. "You did it," she said proudly. "We did it," I corrected, looking at her and Brian. "I couldn't have done this without you." "So what now?" Brian asked as we headed toward the elevator. I smiled, thinking of the foundation plans already in motion. Now we help others stand up for themselves, literally and figuratively. As the elevator doors closed, I caught one last glimpse of my family through the conference room glass. They sat there, broken and defeated, surrounded by the evidence of their betrayal. They'd tried to bury me, never realizing I was a seed. And now I was going to bloom. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our founder, Madison. The applause thundered through the hotel ballroom as I walked, onto the stage. Hundreds of faces looked back at me, including several familiar ones in the back row. "Thank you," I said into the microphone, gripping the podium for support. When I started the Phoenix Foundation, people told me it was impossible. They said one person couldn't make a difference. They were wrong. In the front row, Selah beamed. Next to her, Brian gave me a thumbs up. Tonight, we're celebrating our 10th successful case. Sarah, would you join me? A young woman rose from her seat, making her way to the stage with determined steps. Like me, she'd been told she'd never walk again. Like me, she'd proved them wrong. Sarah came to us after her insurance denied her rehabilitation coverage, I continued. Tonight, she's walking proof that with the right support, anything is possible. More applause. I caught sight of my mother dabbing her eyes in the back row. My father sat rigid beside her, while Kaya and Mateo shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But this foundation isn't just about walking again, I said. It's about standing up for yourself, fighting back when the world or even your own family tries to write you off. The room fell silent. Everyone knew my story. It had made headlines when the foundation launched. Accident survivor turns family betrayal into beacon of hope. Sarah, would you like to say a few words? She stepped up to the microphone. Before I found the Phoenix Foundation, I was ready to give up. My family meant well, but they treated me like I was broken. Madison taught me that being disabled doesn't mean being powerless. I squeezed her hand, remembering my own journey. Tonight, I announced, we're unveiling our newest initiative. The Phoenix Legal Defense Fund will provide attorneys to protect the rights of disabled individuals facing discrimination or exploitation. Brian stood up, acknowledging the applause. He'd quit his corporate job to head the legal team, turning our shared experience into a mission. And leading our new rehabilitation program, I continued, please welcome our Director of Physical Therapy, Selah. Selah joined us on stage, the same fierce determination in her eyes that had helped me take my first steps after the accident. Together, we're not just rebuilding bodies, she said. We're rebuilding lives. After the speeches, during the reception, my family approached. They'd kept their distance since our confrontation, showing up at events but never quite meeting my eyes. That was quite a speech, my father said stiffly. Thank you for coming, I replied, my tone professional. Madison, my mother stepped forward. We've been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of therapy, actually. Oh? We can never undo what we did, Kaya added. But watching you tonight, seeing what you've built, we were wrong, Mateo finished. So incredibly wrong. I studied their faces, seeing genuine regret for the first time. Yes, you were. The foundation. My father cleared his throat. It's remarkable. If there's ever anything we can do. Actually, I said, there is. The Phoenix Foundation is launching a family counseling program for families struggling to support disabled loved ones. We need volunteers to share their stories, to help other families avoid making the same mistakes. They exchanged glances. My mother spoke first. You want us to talk about what we did? I want you to help prevent it from happening to others. Silence stretched between us. Finally, my father nodded. We'll do it. It's the least we can do. Madison, Brian called from across the room. The reporters are here. Excuse me, I said to my family. Duty calls. As I walked away, I heard my mother's quiet voice. She's amazing. We almost destroyed that. No, my father replied. We made her stronger. At the press table, surrounded by cameras and microphones, I caught sight of my reflection in a window. I saw not just the woman who had learned to walk again, but the woman who had learned to soar. Ms. Madison, a reporter asked, what's next for the Phoenix Foundation? I smiled, thinking of all the people out there waiting to rise from their own ashes. We're just getting started. Later that night, after the crowds had gone, I stood at the window of my office. Below, the city lights twinkled like stars. On my desk sat a framed photo from my hospital days, a reminder of where this journey began. Ready to go? Selah asked from the doorway. Brian's waiting with the car. Just a minute. I touched the window, my reflection overlaying the city lights. You know what's funny? They thought they were ending my story. Instead, they helped me write a better one. Come on, Phoenix, she smiled. Time to fly. I walked out of my office, leaving the old photo behind. The past was just that, past. The future? That was a story still being written, one step at a time.